Hello and God bless you. This is Ellen Mongan from Wow Mom. We're delighted you came to visit with us on this podcast. And today I have my co-host, Jan Margaret. Hey, Jan, how you doing?
Hey, good morning, Ellen. How are you?
Well, we're recovering from the wedding.
Yeah, that's right.
I was nursing a bum knee. And so I said to my mom, my knee's still hurting. She said, you shouldn't have danced with Sean. My mom always says the right thing. I go, okay. And then one lady said to me, Ellen, you got to be kind to your knee. But you know what? I don't know why. For some reason, I'm not a rester when I hurt. And then I hurt longer. So Jen, you gave me wise advice. She said, when I feel sick or hurt, I rest for a minute till it gets a little better. And then I go. But you have 11 kids. They probably don't rest that long.
No, never a dull moment. But I saw the video of you dancing. You're amazing.
Yeah,
it's a wedding. You got
to dance with the stars.
That's right. It's a wedding. It's a celebration. So you do what you got to do. As a mother, you learn. You just you do what you got to do.
So weekends are full. We have all our children in the neighborhood. We had a little event at the neighborhood, and we're glad for that as well. But I'm glad to be with you, Jen, again. And you're going to introduce our guest.
Yes, Sister Kerry. We're very excited. Okay, I'll give a little bit of her bio. She's a daughter of St. Paul for over 40 years. Sister Margaret Carey continues to pursue new ways to proclaim the gospel, sharing the Pauline charism with the laity, writing books, St. Anthony of Padua, Fire and Light, Strength and Darkness, John of the Cross, Prayers for the New Evangelization, and through direct evangelization. She is available for workshops and vocation and missions of the laity and the media and literacy and the new evangelization. Welcome, Sister Kerry. We're very excited to talk with you. I've been hearing all about you from Ellen. I'm very excited.
Yeah, we've been trying to get this planned for a while, right, Ellen?
Those are those shows. I think they are, because we prepare and we pray, and then God has his timing. Sister, I'm so grateful for the nuns. I'm wearing my gratefulness scarf. I bought at the dollar store.
That's nice. It's our blue color too. So
I didn't even know. I just put on the jacket because that's gonna look like a clown. It look like a clown.
It looks wonderful.
Lord.
No,
but you know what?
Wonderful.
I'm grateful for the nuns, because in my soul, the nuns is what poured in my soul the truth of the faith, which is thankfully a lot of us are coming back to our roots of being more reverent and more committed. And we always tried, but now a lot of the body of Christ is, especially the younger generation, I'm hiding my clown power, and we're becoming more alive in Christ and the Catholic faith. What do you think, sister?
Oh, of course. Well, we're living in interesting times, but that's not unusual. I'm working on a book with St. Augustine, and so I'm going back to the 4th century. Okay. And it surprises me, but it's also very encouraging to see how the faith, Augustine and Monica, we know the story, how Monica really prayed for this particular son, and how he transformed the church through his own writings and his own faith. And so we don't know how the story is being written now, but we do know how God writes the story, not just by looking at our 2,000 years of history and beyond, that salvation stream that we're in since the beginning of time. But looking today, we could get discouraged. And at the same time, I think what we need to look at is how wonderful God is working in our midst through individuals, through the person we meet. The media may look discouraging, but we can transform the media, which is part of the work of Apolline. And we transform it through our own lives, because we are the first medium people see, and through our own prayer and trust in God. Yeah. So I think it's good times we're living in, at the same time challenging. New saints.
That's right. No, it's the younger generation taking the baton, which encourages me. Don't you think, Jen Ann? The younger generation is coming more alive. They're leading the way. And the veils in our church, sister, a lot of them wear the veils. We have to have you at the church. We finally are back in Georgia. The ladies wear the veils, not all, but just like Megan, we're in Augusta, Georgia area, Holy Trinity Catholic Church, and it shows a reverence. So what do you think about the younger generation, Jan? They're coming alive.
I think so. And I think, like she said, this is an opportunity to make heroes, make saints. And I know with having, I have young adults and I have teenagers and young children. And so we have open discussions about everything. But yeah, so God is really a time to focus on our faith and stay prayed up, learn new prayers, learn new devotions with your family. And as a mom, I think it's really important that we have to have that strong relationship with Jesus ourselves so that we can lead, the home front, set the atmosphere. Because we can get caught up in the media. If you listen to a lot of the naysayers or it's depressing. And I think that could, bring your household down.
Yeah, I think so. And sister, I love the nuns so much, and every person, if they're a nun or not, has a testimony. So nowadays I was going like this for a really long time. Where have all the nuns gone? Because to me, that was my lifeline. My parents were menial Catholic, nice people, going to church faithfully, but menial. And I was like wholehearted. I wanted to be a nun. So I was like wholehearted and I grasped every word. So what made you become a nun? Because we love our role, but Mary chose a better portion, right? We face it, we do the diapers, the dishes, the laundry, and then you chose a better portion. I'm sure you've done some laundry though.
Oh, well, yeah. Oh, yeah. We get both Martha and Mary in our lives too. I think, and there was someone who once said, I think it was a priest who said, these gifts of the church of Christ to us, of consecrated life and married life and the single life, are complementary. So they're not, neither one is better than the other, but it's how God has called us to live so that we can become holy. I think of my own sister who had 7 children, and I know her holiness laid in what she did and how she lived for her family. And I said, I may not have been able to do that and it's because I wasn't called to that. As much as I love children and family life, God surprised me when I was 16 years old, because I had no thought of religious life. And the Daughters of St. Paul opened a bookstore in Metairie, Louisiana, which is right outside of New Orleans. And I was learning how to drive when I was about 14, 15. And my mom saw this bookstore going up and she goes, there's going to be a bookstore. So I'm like, great. And then she told me later, oh, there's nuns in that bookstore. And I thought, well, that's nice. And then she goes, I want to go to that bookstore. Well, I was learning how to drive and I wanted to drive any opportunity I got. So I'd drive her to the bookstore. And then my sister wanted to be a sister and she's younger than me. So I would say, I'll drive her, because she would go to the days of come and see. So I drove her and I stayed with her and I listened. I have funny stories because the sisters, this is the 1970s. Okay. So they said we're sisters of, film and radio and television. So I would watch them try to show a film and they couldn't even thread the machine. So I was like, well, how could they be sisters of the media? In those days, we didn't use the word media, but I was a little confused about what they were saying and what they were doing. But then I went to visit their publishing house with my boyfriend's sister, because these sisters, God somehow works for things. Yeah. So he said to me, and Kerry was his first name was Kerry. And he said, I'd love it if you go with my sister, because my mom doesn't want to go by herself to Boston to see these nuns and she wants to be a sister. So I'm like, and he said, well, I'll pay your way. I'd love you to be with her. I'm like, okay, I'll go. So there, it's when I saw the sisters running the printing presses and working with all the new means. In those days was not what it is today. And I suddenly understood that this was a great way to get the gospel out. And I had been going to daily mass. I was in love with Jesus. I just didn't understand the call. I was praying for a vocation. I was praying for a good man who's saying to St. Joseph, and it kept getting longer, handsome and kind and et cetera. So this list, I think Joseph looked at it and said, there's only one guy I know. So by the time I got back home and meditated on my time there and prayed over it, I really started to think this is probably what I want. So I volunteered at the bookstore with the sisters. And the more I got to know them, the more I fell in love with their charism, which was Pauline, which was a new charism for the media. And the media was just starting, right? There was no computers, there was no iPads, nothing. So media was radio, television. So I joined in 1974, right out of high school. And I really haven't regretted it. I mean, how many years ago was that? Took my vows when I was 21 and been moved all over the country and had experiences, met Mother Teresa and Father Benedict Rochelle and Pope John Paul and, all these things that wouldn't have happened. But what's the most blessed thing of answering a call is just knowing that the partner that you've partnered with is faithful.
That's right. That's right. You're the most faithful of all, because we all have to marry Jesus. The nuns married Jesus, and we all have to marry Jesus. I think before you even marry your spouse, a lot of girls nowadays, sister, because I was in all the community, they pray through their vocation, and they ask some last intercessors like me and say, will you pray for me through my vocation. Now that's a holy moment, says saying, I like this guy's got cute eyes or whatever it is. You go, I'm praying through my vocation. I was going to be a nun myself, but I had that desire to be a stewardess first. So I did that and I fell in love with Pat, and the rest is history. But I did pray through after, even, you fall away sometimes, the Lord, then you come back. And when I came back, I went, did I make a mistake, Lord? But then God put me on an isolation tank in Florida, and I go, I have to have people in my, I really treasure the people that I have, my children, my husband. I go, okay, I didn't make a mistake, but you do so many things that we do as well, but not in the same way, sister. So I'm thinking this is, can you tell that quote that I always misquote on it's either I think it's St. Thomas. I would say St. Paul, but St. Thomas, was it St. Thomas that said, if St. Paul were alive today?
Oh, it was our founder, Blessed James Alberione, who's from northern Italy. Yeah. He said that if St. Paul were alive today, he would use all the modern means to announce the gospel, because in his day, he used modern means, which were ships and writing and visiting. So yes. So now our younger sisters now are using podcast and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, and as well as publishing really great books and that work with the new media at the same time.
I wish I brought my book. My favorite book they have, Dan, I probably sent it to you. I sent it to everybody. 52 Saints, and it's sometimes out of print, and Spiritual Diary. Those are my two favorites. And I wrote about Spiritual Diary in my Catholic Mom last month, because they said, one lady said, this Barb is out of print. We could get it for like $1,000 somewhere, but it's such a treasure that I found that there's another book that kind of copied it a little bit, same kind of book, and it's not by y'all, but it's similar, about taking the saints each day and the virtue. Virtues are the unheard of word, like virtue. Oh my, who wants to do that? That's what we are called to do. My sister, we're called to virtue. Jan does it. We do it every day. We don't have it as a mother. It's like the fast path to holiness. You may want that last cookie, and your 2-year-old is getting cookie, mommy. Right, Jan? We
That's right.
So tell us about that, sister, about how important it is that we do have every vocation: nuns, priests, deacons, I was a deacon, and then fathers that are godly, and teenagers that are trying to go pro-life. And how important is that in this world today?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I mean, I know you both could speak about that, especially, with your families and the children and the grandchildren that would come. And I just looking at my own mom, my sister, as I said, I have 2 sisters and 3 brothers, and realizing that we all are on this path that requires each other, just within a family.
That's right.
And then when you think of the church as the larger family, how the priesthood supports us through the sacraments, and the sacraments are so important to us, right? As moms, I'm sure sacraments are something you lean on. The fact that you are able to go to adoration in a chapel, the Eucharist has been consecrated through the hands of a priest by the grace of God. The fact that sisters will be available to show, I guess our mission is to say, we're not here forever, because religious life really in the beginning, and especially now, is about the fact that we trust in God for now and for eternity, that everything that we give up is not lost. Everything that we give and consecrate to God comes back 100-fold. That's right in the Gospels. He who leaves mother, sister, brother, father. So we're witnesses to that reality, and moms, families are witnesses to the reality of God's love in a very unique way. We all want to be, as sisters, I want to be a witness to God's love, but it's in a different way than a mom is. My mom witnesses God's love to me all the time, and I witness to her, back to her, in a unique way, because she's seen that I'm always have to surrender to God, because that's my vocation. My vocation is total surrender.
That's
yours is too, but I can witness that in a unique way. So some of the saints that I look to have been religious, and they've surrendered their life to God. But I also look to married women and families, and I look especially to the moms, and I say, their surrender is actually built in, whereas ours, sometimes we have to make the choice a little more, like you're talking about the dishes and the Martha thing. But if moms don't do the dishes, and they'd love their kids to do them, the kitchen will be a mess, and her husband might be, can you just, let's work on this together, or maybe not. In religious life, it's not so different. but I don't have kids that are going to run in screaming for peanut butter and jelly sandwiches while I'm trying to do the dishes and clean. You know, I've got a different space to work in. I have to make a
It's
choice.
kind of a quiet space, is that when you're a
It's a
mother,
little
you wish you
quieter.
had the quiet, you know?
Yeah,
and then
we
when
get
you're
the
done, you
quiet.
wish they had the children running
So we
around
have
and
to
you're done.
choose.
It's just
Yeah.
like, it's like the other man's grass is always greener. I just have so many questions for you, sister. I like what you said about the journey, like taking the path and everything takes it. That's why I have that behind me to remind me that we're all on a road. It's an ocean of God's love, and we have to all walk it every day. And the worst is for me was, I talked about last week, discontentment. You have to be content in the role. Once God calls you to be a mother and wife, that's your calling. Guess what? It's just like, you know, once you make the choice and you get pregnant, that's your calling to love that baby. So, and once you make the choice to be a nun, discontentment can eat our lunch, y'all. And I'm never hungry. So I don't get point to the Lord. So Jen, do you have a question for sister? I don't want to hog the show, which is I used to do a show alone, sister. So I like after work, I'm like, I don't want to hog the show. I enjoy everything everyone says. So Jen has wonderful questions.
Yeah, I want to ask, like, yeah, how do you speak to parents to encourage, you know, to seek out, not to seek out, but like if this is what the Lord's calling you, how do you know, or how do you help the parents to, you know, talk about it, I guess, with their children?
When somebody asks us, we usually do say prayer is one of the first ways to know. To somebody who might feel called to even just say a Hail Mary each day with that intention. I mean, I prayed the novena to St. Joseph every day, so that worked. And my mom prayed to St. Joseph for my dad, so, and his name was Joe. So that was kind of a little family, sharing your family history, because religious life is no different in the romance stage. It's the falling in love. And falling in love, it could be, some of our sisters are drawn through ministry, others are drawn through just consecrating themselves entirely to God. And others are drawn through the joy they see in the sister, that community. So just like in romance, we're drawn to someone in a unique way for that period of time where we feel all the joy, and we have almost a certainty that prepares us for what's coming. And so in religious life, it's that discernment as well. So a young person would go to visit a religious order. They might have come and see, so they want to go test it. They want to see, what is it I like? Do I feel comfortable? Do I feel at home here? Is there something touching my spirit? So for me, for instance, the sisters always had an hour of adoration, and that wasn't popular back in the 70s yet. But I would go to their chapel and pray an hour of adoration. So when I went to visit them, hour of adoration is built into who we are as daughters of St. Paul. So that attracted me, that form of prayer. So those types of things help us discern. And then having a spiritual director when someone's a little older, a priest or someone who helps them in their discernment process. And I know for parents, many times it's that letting go for anything, for family. What is God calling my son or daughter to? To be there in their discernment, to listen to them, and to encourage where you can encourage is important, and to add your prayers.
Like that. And vocations are so needed. Mothers and fathers out there, encourage vocations. It is a giving up, like sisters, it's a giving up of your child. My one friend, Ann Shay, her child is a different order, and she travels around the world. So sometimes Ann doesn't see her, maybe a phone call there. She doesn't always get to talk with her. You know, it's a hard thing, but you know what? It's a fruit that you give. You cannot give God, and the more you give away, the more God fills you. I have an interesting question, sister, about this is a time where the body of Christ is suffering, and I have suffered greatly. I'm sure Jan has too, but like you have a lot of, this is a time you want to address suffering in any way you want. I'll put you on the spot, but suffering does, just listen to Mother Angelica. Suffering draws you closer to God than the other thing, because you seek after him. You go like, Lord, I remember the day I suffered greatly. I was like, I really need a savior. I don't know even what to do. I'm so that person, like, I need you. It's not like I picked you, Lord, because I'm going to heaven. I need a savior here on this earth right now, where I don't know what to do or where to go. Help me, Lord. So sister, what do you think about suffering for people that are out there? There's a lot of suffering. I mean, they may, to one person, a little thing, maybe they lost their job. To someone, they lost their focus on Christ. They're losing their faith. They're losing someone they love a lot. I have a friend right now, Sue Hoyt, a very delightful friend. I wrote an article called Who is Sue to You? And now those Who is Sue to You, this is my second Sue, who's in very deep, illness. So I said, Lord, you either have to do a miracle for Sue, or she's going to glory. Both are good, but however, who is Sue to you? So what do you think about suffering?
Jane Ann had mentioned that I wrote a book called Strength in Darkness, John of the
Okay.
Cross. So I think in my younger years, and I wrote that back in the early 2000s.
Okay.
I've read all of John of the Cross because I was trying to understand suffering from a point of view of spiritual growth. And he speaks to that so well, as does Teresa of Avila. But John of the Cross specifically talks about the flame of love. And in his books, Dark Night of the Soul and Flame of Love and Ascent to Mount Carmel, he basically is saying it is through suffering that we can finally let go of the parts of ourselves that aren't the Christ image.
Mhm.
And that's why it's suffering.
That's right.
Because there's parts of, because we're human and God allows us our freedom to choose and our freedom to love. So without our free will, we wouldn't have this. So he likens it, and if you read the books, he's got all kinds of images, but for one of them is the fire of love can burn, it's like a log burning that you light, and the log is beautiful and the wood is beautiful and it's light. The light is even beautiful and it's flaming, but as it flames and creates fire, the wood becomes darker and blacker and eventually just seems to glow with this heat. And he said that's what happens through suffering. We go through that crucible, but we come out, he said, as gold is tried by fire. Or he said, as fine wine. The wine seems great, but you keep it in a barrel and you keep it down in the basement, and eventually it becomes the best wine. So he says it's like the wine cellar that God makes of us to become the best wine. And suffering, and I've gone through in the last few years, and especially last year, I lost my sister who was just turned 59, who had 7 children.
Wow.
And so she lived a holy life. So the suffering was more on my part about her loss and for her children, and to witness their suffering and our suffering as we knew we were losing her to her 10 years of fighting with cancer. The suffering has made me very aware, and I know you can each speak to this, of the people who come into our centers who are suffering, or people I meet. It is no longer a head thing. It's now a heart thing.
That's right.
I no longer have answers for them. I have presence to them. When I talk to God in adoration, I always have the presence of Jesus crucified and Jesus resurrected. So that mystery of suffering, I was witnessing a man who came into our bookstore who was all upset because he didn't have what everybody else has. He said, I really wanted stuff. Am I not a man? I said, yes. Am I not owed a good job? Yes, you are. Am I not owed some good money and some good clothes? And I could tell he was a poor person, probably a little homeless. But after his conversation with me, I said, what's the difference between his attitude and the attitude I can have? The difference is accepting the fact that this is human life. It is imperfect. It is not human. It is not heaven yet. It is not perfection. However, if we allow ourselves to allow what God wills for our lives and offer it, it can be transforming us and everybody around us. And it brings a different joy. So John Paul has his whole document on suffering, on human suffering. That's a treasure. But I think each of you, Jean and Ellen, in your own life, you see how suffering transforms us. Not that we willingly would go through it, but that we accept what comes our way in the little things. And Mother Teresa would probably say this, right? It's the little things, like she said, if I hadn't picked up that one person on the street, I wouldn't have picked up anybody else to help them. So even for us, if I hadn't picked up that one cup that I'm upset that sister left there and put it in the dishwasher for her, I wouldn't be picking up my sister when she needs help.
That's right.
In some tragedy in her life, because my every little thing that bothers me can be looked at as something holy for me to give away of myself, the gift of self, as Theology of the Body says, right?
That's right.
It helps us to give ourselves.
That's right. And I'm sorry about your sister. it is hard to lose a loved one.
Yeah,
I'm
I've got her
sorry.
up on the wall there, back
Okay, let's see.
there. Let's see, there she is.
Sweet, and I love seeing it.
I can't see her, there she is.
Oh,
I say that the journey itself changes you, and the journey itself gives you great understanding. Suffering, the journey of suffering gives you understand, like you're talking about. You understand that we have to choose above our flesh, and it's easy to do that when you have to, choose something little, but little things make you be able to choose bigger next. It's like having children. The first kid seems overwhelming, then the second kid, you go like, I'm overwhelmed again. So we're growing people. What do you think, Jan, about suffering? It's a hard thing. I tell my kids, it's not called a cross because it's super easy to carry. Even Jesus had to have Simon. If it was easy, it'd be like a blessing, but this is a cross. It becomes a blessing as we choose our flesh, and then you receive the joy that no man can take away. But you don't judge, like, why can't they do that? I can do this, as we've grown. Jana, what do you think about suffering? Hard word.
right. And as I was listening to it, I was thinking of more, I homeschool right now. And so everything I do is pretty much like teaching. So I look at everything as teaching. So when I was like thinking of a teaching moment, talking to our children about that, because, I have all girls right now. And, just when you're talking about picking up the cup and putting it in the dishwasher, I was thinking, that's a conversation I have every day with these girls. One will be like, well, one will like, well, I did that yesterday and I did this today, but I was like thinking of how you said it. I'm like, that's a really good opportunity for a teaching moment, as in, because I said, well, God put you in this family at this time because we all have a lot of idiosyncrasies, right? And so, being at home all day with homeschooling with all, everybody, you really get to know those idiosyncrasies. You're like, oh my gosh, can you just quit clicking your nails? Can you, we're all together. But I look at it like that's a really good teaching moment to talk about, just suffering, because look, what you're doing for her, you're doing for the Lord, and because they would not see it that way. They have to have one up on each other. It's like I know I tell them all the time, I'm like, I know that my suffering is okay. You cannot complain about your chores or doing any work until you do more work than me and Dad.
Yes, that very moment we say, why do we become a Carmelite nun? Why do we become like we say to ourselves? Then we go, no, this is what we're called to do. But it is and that train up a child is a, you're trained up, nuns are trained up each other. You're there with women as well. So you understand it. I don't know, it's important. I want to, sister, tell a little bit about your not your vocation, because you told that, but I want to know a little bit more about how people, like, say they're interested in your I know it's a charisma of media, but that's my question right here. Tell a little about Daughters of St. Paul, like the good, the bad, not the ugly, but the good, the bad, and the grace-filled.
The good, the bad, and the grace-filled, huh? Well, the good part, the charism that Blessed James Alberione was started by the grace of God. I mean, it was his call. As a young man in northern Italy, he went to the seminary with 16, and then he started reading books that got him very confused. And this is pre-socialism, and things were stirring in the church itself. And whatever he was reading and passing around got him kicked out of the seminary, right? So he worked really hard on his farm, and he was able to get back into another seminary where at the age of 16, before the turn of the century to the 19th century, he was praying 3 hours of adoration. It was the time of Leo the 13th, and the Pope was asking for, how do we enter this new era? And he was inspired to use the same media that got him thrown out of the seminary. Because he said, we can't talk about not going to see movies and not going to read and not reading books. He said, we need to give what is good then. We need to use what we can do and put that in the world instead of decrying what's evil. Let's put some good into the world. So he went ahead to found the Society of St. Paul in 1914, and then the Daughters of St. Paul in 1915, and then a big lay branch, which is throughout the world, in 1917. And he kept founding orders up until 1953. So there's 10 groups in the Pauline family. We call it a family because we're 4 religious women orders, and then 4 orders of people who take vows as in a secular institute, and then the Pauline cooperators, and Jesus the priest for priests who want to join our community but remain in their parishes and in their dioceses. So he was told by many that most people, rumors were he's not going to make it. He had tuberculosis at one time. They thought he was going to die in his 20s. And here he is founding this order with a sister, Mother Tekla, who wasn't allowed in any other religious order because they said she was too sickly. So he chose her to be the foundress. So you see the weaknesses. He was never afraid of weakness. He trusted God. And he talked a lot about the covenant, which we hear Scott Hahn talk about a lot.
Yeah.
Oh,
But he
yeah.
talked about that covenant that even religious orders have with God, covenant that families have with God. So each of your families is in a covenant relationship with somebody who's totally faithful and keeps calling us back to the faith, fidelity, and covenant. So the founder went on to found us and died in 1971. So he's pretty recent, and beatified in 1983 by John Paul II, who called him the first apostle of the new evangelization, because our founder used these words, new evangelization, new apostles, new means, way before they were known, before Vatican II. And he attended all of the sessions at Vatican II. He was he loved the liturgy. He loved scripture and Eucharist. He was one of the movers to get the Bible in every Catholic home, which wasn't a big movement then. So today we continue what he has given us, using now the new means, the Bible, to really help people understand the Bible as the living word of God, living and active, and the Eucharist, where Jesus is present to us, the sacraments, and that to reach to people of today in today's world, that we ourselves, as Jane, you said earlier, we need to shore ourselves up through prayer, through the sacraments. And then we trust in God to let us be instruments and icons, the first picture, the first Bible that people read in our lives. And it's going to be, it's going to be in our weakness, as Paul says, and where Paul is our patron. In those weaknesses, God's glory shines through. So we don't have to be afraid of our weaknesses. We just want to say yes as often as we can. Pick ourselves up and say yes again. And only by the grace of God can we even say yes. So then we give thanks as you were in your gratitude. Then we say, thank you, God, that I was able to say yes.
That's right. And we're always surprised, like, wow, how did I react like that? I like, Christ in me, my hope of glory. Janet, what do you think? And it's like, it is an adventure. It's an adventure. No matter what road you take, what vocation, it's like, mine's the unknown, even every day. So, I'm sorry, Janet, you go ahead.
Well, I just look at it that what your vocation is, but when God has called you to that one thing, yes, you do have to have faith, and there are a lot of weaknesses in our human flesh. I just have the one example I have is just homeschooling. I've been doing it for 20 plus years. And there are some days when I'm just like, do I really have to do this today? Or there's something that has to be done. And I'm like, I can't figure it out. Like, Lord, why'd you call me to this? Math, I'm horrible at math. And but he's been so faithful. I have to keep surrendering that. I know it doesn't, but in my vocation, I have to surrender it, that. And also even in marriage, there's things that come up and I'm like, I don't understand. I don't understand why I'm going through this, but I look back on it now as you and Ellen have been talking about suffering, and I'm thinking, God does have a plan with it. It's not pleasant at the time. And no, I would not have chose it in a million years, but the fruit that has come forth from it, has been good. But there were days I remember, in the beginning of my marriage, and just crying because I'm like, I don't understand. I don't want to be in this place. I don't want, not in a physical place, but, a place that we were going through, physically, emotionally, spiritually, everything.
I think you speak to the expectations of our day in our society too, because it's there's so much that the media would have us live up to, or puts before us as what's supposed to be. And in reality, as Christians, we realize that we have such great joys and such wonderful moments in this country, this rich country that we live in, that all the things we have, I think, as you're saying, it's that constant gratitude, even for the sufferings we go through that lead us to another place that we wouldn't have, as it says in the scriptures, as Jesus told Peter, one day you're going to be led to a place you don't want to go. And Peter he went to the cross, but he's a great saint now. That doesn't mean the saints, there was a book by Sheed called The Saints Aren't Sad. The saints, it's a different kind of joy. Mother Tekla, who's our founder, has said, even if we cannot always be happy, we can be joyful. And so joy is a deep down something inside of us. And we celebrate the times that we are feeling good. I mean, there's, we've got all these human emotions. So we're going to always look for that comfort zone and that easy time. And that's okay. It's accepting, for me, it's accepting what does come and transforming it into joy by letting go of it. There's a chaplet called the Chaplet of Surrender.
I like it.
The Novena of Surrender. You can find it online. It's fantastic. But it's basically, surrender is nothing less than trusting that God, as you said, Jane, has a plan. That we don't understand it, but we believe God was St. Paul that says once his desire for us is happiness, his desire for us is joy, his desire for us is life eternal. If God wants that for us, then that's what it's okay to be after that.
That's
right. Right. And I think too, like the little saying, bloom where you're planted.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, the surrender, and then also with contentment, like Ellen was talking about earlier, it's because I've had to just tell myself, you know what, I'm just going to bloom where I planted, because I think a lot of times in our humanness that we want to escape maybe that trial we're going through, and we were like, okay, if I could just be over here doing this or somewhere else, I would just, this would be better. And instead have it, just go through it. So bloom where you're planted. And I think too, what I have discovered through just these trying times for the past couple of years with the country, the COVID, everything is that, I got to live in the moment, because a lot of times I think whether media or news, they want you to project so much fear and anxiety, and that's not from the Lord either. I know I've gone through that personally. And I have to say, I got to be right here in the moment. I have children, that I have a husband, I have a family, I got to be right here in the moment. So I had to that's been a major prayer for me, like with surrender. Okay, I'm here. I'm in the moment. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do today, Lord?
That's right.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you for reminding that present moment. You're right. My mom and I talk sometimes, and she said, I can't watch the news anymore. I said, that's a good thing, Mom. I said, sometimes I hear things. And then I said to Mom, I just go open the door and I look out and I said, everything looks good here, at this moment.
My house is like
yeah. So how can I love the person that's coming in the front door? How can I be with the person I'm with? That's what you're talking about. I love that.
Right.
Mindfulness.
I think that's exactly where we have to be right now. I mean, I know we're not promised tomorrow, but like what am I going to do today with my husband, my children, the people meet at the grocery store, wherever, so that, like you said, that we may be the only Bible or the only feed our hands of Jesus that somebody sees just by giving a smile. And I mean, because that's been a constant reminder. Only really the Holy Spirit through prayer has been reminding me of that, because I had to quit watching the news too, because it was bringing me down. And then I was projecting that, not onto, but it was becoming my talk. So, where your treasure is, therefore there your heart is also.
That's
I like that.
lovely. Yes. Yeah.
So sister, if you were to address the young people today, what would you say to the young people today? It doesn't have to be on the subject of vocation, but what would you say to them before we touch on your?
And I see a wonderful group of young people that are always coming into our front doors of our center. And what I see in them, and the young adults who meet in our back room just to share the catechism or scripture, what I notice is they find good friends. So for young people, I would say that's such an important thing.
Yes.
To find good friends, people that can be sharing your faith and to strengthen you in your youth. Many of you could speak to that too. I had such a great group of friends when I was growing up. Not that we all chose the same thing, but we supported each other. And I know women are especially good at this, but I've seen young men and young women in our store that when they're supporting each other to find the best books, to watch the good media, to talk about, say, theology of the body, they lead each other deeper and deeper into an understanding of Christ. that makes all the difference for young people.
Mhm.
They may have friends who aren't believers, who are outside of that, but they need the friends who they can come back to and strengthen their faith. Because there's too much in society today that's
Yes.
distracting them, and too much can lead them astray. So I think, and that St. Augustine would say the same thing. When he converted, he led his friends into error, but he also led his friends into Catholicism. Because his friendships, there's all kinds of books on Augustine and friendship. He saw that as one of the highest goods, a friendship.
Mm, that's
Um,
good.
and I know as moms, when you have young kids, you can't so much be friends with them. But later on, that friendship between a mom and children blossoms. I know from my own mom and myself. But right now, young people, their friends are going to be their peers, and they really have to. So go to church, look for them, try join the Catholic youth groups that are in your area, give it a chance, and just pray to God. I think praying for a good friend is also a really important thing. See, you've got things like the show. Where can they be pointed at so that they can get together with other young people? Our young sisters are trying to help create that atmosphere, but that's for young people to know their faith and then be able to bring it to others and deepen it together is amazing. When I see that happen, these are joyful people. They find great partners in life. They support each other after they're married. So even here, they get together as groups. They do fun things together. In today's world, that's what's needed.
That's
A lot
right.
more.
God is not, we're not an island, and God
Right.
always says to find those people that are pointing heavenward. You may,
Right.
they may be more fun, may they do livelier music that's off the beat, but please look to Christ for your answers, and look to the church, and look to your moms and dads. Don't discount them. They may know something, don't you think, Jan? We know some stuff, but
Yeah.
at a certain age, you go through, I don't know if you're the sister, but you go like, my mom doesn't know anything. And then we realize,
Yes.
wow, they had a hidden treasure that I never even opened, a gift that I could have given the world. So, Jen, and we're going to go to last words in a minute, but do you have anything else to ask, sister, before we do? Because we are already almost over with the show. It's like we just started. That's why I don't.
Yeah, so when Sister Carey, when you give where we can reach you, because you said your group was on TikTok. So I have some children that are on TikTok.
Yeah, so that's a good place. So well, I'm going to give you our website too. It's pauline.org, pauline.org. And that's
Okay.
where you'll find a little bit more about us and our bookstores and our other medium. And then for TikTok and Twitter, there's a couple of our sisters. So I would look under Daughters of St. Paul for TikTok. And there's Sister Teresa Alethea, who does the Momentum Mori, which a lot of young people are attracted to. She has Twitter, Sister Teresa Alethea, which means truth in Greek, Alethea. Sister Helena Burns, Burns, and her blog used to be Hell Burns. So she does a lot on theology of the body.
Okay.
So Helena Burns. So for Instagram, Sister Julia Darenkamp. I think she might just be under Julia Mary, but her last name is Darenkamp, Darrenkamp. She has the largest Instagram follower, and it's all introducing you to the saints and what they mean for our lives today. So you can have friends in heaven too. Then we have the younger sisters, so you'll end up on Facebook, Sister Bethany, Sister Danielle. They're all, once you connect with one, you're going to start connecting with all the other young sisters, and they'll lead you to their TikTok, their Instagram, their Twitter accounts. And I think they've helped a lot of young people because they're young themselves, but they've also have had a lot of experience. There's also a book that's out, and it's called Millennial Nuns, that our sisters wrote. That was required by another, I think Random House asked us to publish it, one of the other publishers. And so they wrote this book. We sold out. We put it in the window here, and we sold out right away. Millennial Nuns.
Nice.
Millennial Nuns, and it
That's
tells
a
about why
catchy
they
title.
entered. Yeah, it's a great book. It's all stories, and their stories are real about what their struggles were when they were young. Some were atheist, and some were had divorced family situations. Others were struggling with other things, and how they were led to Jesus.
Awesome.
Oh, that's good. Okay.
Right. Well, our show is called Wow Mom, Woman of Wisdom, and truly Sister Carey is a woman of wisdom. But I'm going to ask a random question while y'all think of your last words. But think as I say it, Sister, what made you choose the name Sister Margaret Carey? I'm just wondering.
Well, I was baptized Margaret Mary.
Ah,
I grew up being called Peggy, but when I entered the convent, we either choose our baptism names, and then we're given another name. So when I made profession in 1978, I was given the name Charles. It was right when Carol Watiwa was, it was his year of being elected Pope, and Carol means Charles. So that's my given profession name, but I also kept my baptism name, Margaret
very
Mary.
nice. You can't go better than that.
Beautiful.
No.
Margaret Mary. I mean, you can't go better than that. Okay, so Jan, you do your last words then, Sister Carey, and tell how to get a hold of you. Jan's got a new website. It's lovely. You have
Oh,
to check
good.
it out. Jan, want to say?
Yes. Yeah,
Say
I'm
last
so I'm on
word.
I'm on I have an Instagram, Apron Ann Homestead, and then also that's my my website as well, Apron Ann Homestead, and that's where you can reach me, and then also on Gmail.
Okay, can you stop the show in one word or two sentences or 5 paragraphs or a page and a half? Since we're already over by time, I never care. I find our show interesting, Sister. Maybe it's,
Yeah,
I like to listen to
I
people.
can. I think we covered a lot of areas, like with young people, also with mothers. This is Wow Mom, and I think to take these points of suffering and walking day to day, things that we got going on, that keep in prayer. Look to Christ. Stay in the moment for sure. Stay in the moment, and if the news is getting you down, definitely quit watching it.
Sorry.
It steals your joy.
Sister, do you want to stop
Excellent,
the show and
excellent.
say one last word or two? Or
Well, I just want to say I do follow on Facebook. I follow all Catholic moms. I write for Catholic Mom, and I have a great heart for the Catholic moms. I learn a lot. I've learned a lot from both of you today. When I follow Catholic moms on any format, I look at what they struggle with every day, and I realize that I can offer my struggles here for Catholic moms.
Mhm.
So that offering of things that I have to do, that I have to do,
they get to do.
that I don't want to do, and there are many things that I love doing, but those are offered for Catholic moms who also have many things that they would rather be doing than what's happening in their life. That moment thing that Jane Ann said is so important. So for this moment, what is happening right now in my life? What can I give? How can I love? Who's the person knocking on my door or calling my name? Yeah, and many times I just have to stop everything I'm doing and say a prayer, just say a quick prayer. I surrender to you, or my Jesus mercy, or thank you, God, and continue with the next moment.
That's very good. That's very good. But we are very candid here today. What we did mention is that Sister Carey not only writes, she also speaks. She does workshops. She's an artist. I don't know if you knew that, Jenny, but look at the back. She drew a lot of the pictures.
There's some of my art back there.
She's a hidden treasure.
So pretty.
Please,
No,
please contact her to come speak at your church. She does
Yes.
bring, I don't know if she still does it, the book ministry she's brought to Macon before Jansen Macon. That's how I met Jane Ann, came there at with Father McDonald. I'm thinking of St. Joe's Church, and and so we have a new church. I'm going to see if Father will watch this and see if he can bring you, if you're allowed to come. Like a lot of times they have to go into prayer, and so we thank the Lord for Sister Carey. I thank the Lord for this show, and I want to say something on a different line. All the sharing went to this: treasure what you have. Treasure like your family members. If you're a mom and you have children, treasure that. Let the moment thing, but treasure more than that, the fact that God has you right where he wants you right that second. And you know what? It's all good if you go like, I get to, instead of I have to. We all know that. So we need to be refreshed every day. Thank you for offering it up, Sister. If we remember, we will remember the same. We need to return that favor, Catholic moms and all the women out there, that return the favor. You never know when you meet someone on the street. They may have a happy smile. You don't know what they're going through. They may have just lost their mother. They may have just lost their job. They may have just lost their mind. Who knows? But thank you, Lord, for all that we go through, because you work it out for the good. And thank you for this show. You can catch me, Ellen Mongan, host of Wow Mom. You can catch me on www.wowellen.com. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you again. Thank you, Jan, for being my co-host.
Thank you. Thank you. It was
Thank
nice.
you,
It was
sister.
good to talk with you, Sister
Good to meet you,
Carey.
Jane. Yes,
We
good to
enjoy
meet
meeting
you.
you. We'll meet you again. You're a
Yeah.
great show, and thank you. This is
Thank
my
you.
hardest part, people. My blindness here. I'm blind, blonde, and I don't always listen good. Here we go. I'm gonna stop the recording here, and I'll send it to y'all. Is it okay?